welcome to Brunch with Books. Today we are continuing again with those two books, The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So here we are seeing how the difference between reading and the knowledge we get from books and achieving some goals, as well as how we learn when we actually experience that through actual and real conversation. So let's see what more we can learn from these two books. And over to you, Geeta Karyappa, for bringing in more information from the book.
Thank you, Sritapa. Hi, everyone. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is a timeless tale that reminds us even today that when we dare to follow our dreams and listen to our hearts, the universe quietly aligns to guide us towards our true purpose. In the final part of The Alchemist, Santiago stands on the threshold of his dream. But what he discovers is far more profound than gold or treasure. Paulo Coelho reminds us that the real treasure of any journey is not merely what we find at the end, but who we become along the way. The novel holds out a deeper message. Sometimes the treasure we search for in the world is quietly waiting within us. And the novel asks, do you trust yourself enough to try to reach it? So let us follow Santiago deeper into the desert with the alchemist, his guide, his mentor, and perhaps his greatest mirror. Soon, they are captured by tribal warriors caught in a brutal desert war. And in a moment that changes everything, the alchemist makes a bold claim that Santiago can turn himself into the wind. Santiago is terrified. He has no idea how to perform such a miracle. There is no plan, no preparation, just fear because of the weight of expectation on him. But in that moment of desperation, something shifts within him. Santiago does not get wisdom from his guide just like that. He has to pass the test. Instead of resisting, he begins to listen to himself. The alchemist teaches him through this test that something profound, that true wisdom does not come from outside the world, but from listening to one's own heart. From understanding that everything in existence is deeply connected, the desert, the wind, the sun, and us. He speaks to the desert, he feels the wind, he reaches out to the sun, and slowly understands that he is not separate from them. He is part of something far greater, what the story calls the soul of the world. And when he surrenders to that truth, he doesn't force the miracle, he becomes the miracle. The wind rises, the impossible happens, and the warriors stand in awe. They allow themselves to continue their journey. But when Santiago thinks that the journey will continue together with Alchemist, the Alchemist quietly leaves. It is his final lesson for Santiago that the last step must be taken alone. This brings us to the question, viewers, Santiago is left alone to continue his journey. Does this tell us about true growth and the courage to walk alone? So I invite Dr. Siddharth to share his reflection on this question. Over to you, Dr. Siddharth.
Yeah, and this one is like such a close experience, which I feel we all should understand how powerful our inner strength is. That we cannot rely on all the external world all the time. There are times when we do get situations when we are alone and we have to face our own fears. One of the incident which I got reminded about is when and this is a story I have written in my book Petrichor as well. I was on a helicopter which was going to fall, and the story you can read in the Petrichor book. But then this story just reminds me that I was in that moment where the pilot was telling us that jump into the river, and the gorge was like some 5,000, 10,000 feet below us. And we were getting ready to jump, though we had life jackets and all that, but it was a rocky river. And the other point was that we stay in the helicopter and get crashed. In that moment, my whole life was like coming in front of me. I just closed my eyes. I don't know. There was a lot of fear that what will happen to me if I die here, because nobody knows that I have taken this ride, and whether people will even find my body or not. In that moment of fear and desperation, I just closed my eyes and remembered my mom, my father, my sister, and it was such a profound memory which I hold that mom just told me. I just was telling mom that apologizing to her that this is going to happen. I don't know what will happen. What is the next thing which is going to happen? I may die or I may survive, but you will be always in my heart. This was a statement I was giving to myself, and somehow there was a light from within which was telling me you will survive this. And 2 minutes later, the pilot said that we are stable. You don't have to jump. We opened our eyes. Three of us were there in that helicopter, and we opened our eyes and looked at each other. We all were surviving that such a scary moment. And I just remember this event because there was a little bit of not little but a lot of fear during that moment, and only thing which actually brought me out of that was my belief and my inner strength. I think that everybody needs at some point of time, and they can take a decision based on that. So when we face something very hard, when we don't know the next thing which is going to happen to us, there is only one thing which can save us is our belief, and I feel that belief should be there in everyone. So that's my story. Over to you, Shitapa, to share yours.
That was quite a brave story, and I am getting goosebumps right now listening it. I have read this in your literature book, and rehearing it live from you was another experience, I will say, because I could visualize the entire thing again because I know the story. Coming to one of my relatable insight, which was very strange for me myself. Um, and in this month particularly, I will like to share. I'll let you know why. My maternal uncle, my I call him Mama. He was not well, so he suddenly had health issues, and it triggered so much that it he had to get admitted in a week, and within a week we got to know that he will be no more. So the family didn't get any time for even mental preparation to say him goodbye. We were all attached to him, and it happened that I was far away in a different country that I can't even go and see him for the last time. So, and that time, all my in Australia job interviews and all these things were going in parallel. So that was a phase where I had to focus on my job interviews, and at the end, these all things are going in my home. It was a tough time, and just before the day he died, I was sleeping in my bedroom, and that night somehow I was speaking to him. A night before he died, I was speaking to him, and I was saying him, Mama. So this year we want to go Rajasthan. You remember you wanted to go Rajasthan. So he was lying. I could see in my dream he was lying in the hospital bed and saying, "No, let me go. Let me go. There is a lot of pain." And I was like, "Why? You always loved going there. So let's go." And he said, "No, you all go. Let me go. I have to go somewhere else." That's what he was talking to me that way. And then I said, "Okay, why are you saying like this? Suddenly you are so much high in energy. And where is that thing?" So he said, "Everything will be good. I am going in a good place. And soon you will get your job. So don't worry. We will meet." So then I don't know. I was getting a very negative feeling that something will go wrong the next morning. Something will go wrong. And I tried to inform to my parents and their son there, who were there in Jamshedpur, and they were said that we know he's very serious tonight. We don't know what will happen. Let's see. And I was praying, but I was somewhere sure he will not be there. And soon I cracked my interview. I got a job. I had to relocate, and everything was going on all these at my end. And that's when this news comes in, and he passed away. But when I reached to Adelaide, I could see a yellow butterfly always following me always following me. So I was wondering, what is this happening? Why is a yellow butterfly always jumping and following me? And then when I spoke to one of my peers here, Geeta ji, and she said that, people who pass away, sometimes they visit that way. And that's where I could connect that that yellow butterfly was always coming and jumping with joy. Maybe it was his happiness, because last words with him when he was good and healthy was, when will you get a job? So that was his worry. So when I got a job, I think that's where he came and showed me that happiness, that yes, now you see, I was telling you will get a job, and you got a job. So that's what I could relate from the story, and I felt like sharing with all of you all that some things happen, even miracles happen. Maybe this was a sad story, but I am sure he is happy somewhere. As he said me, I will be happy. So over to you, Sujata.
Thank you both for such moving stories about these moments of ultimate crisis, near death experiences. Now, coming to both the books, Santiago is also facing death. Actually, physically, he has to do something impossible. And here's what's so beautiful: he doesn't fight, he doesn't run. He goes, uh, you know, he talks to the desert, to the wind, to the sun. He connects with something larger than himself. And in doing so, he transforms. Now, let me tell you about another such moment in the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl watched men die in the camps, but he also watched something else. He watched some men, precious few, who chose a different way. He wrote about them. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing: to choose one's way. These were men who, despite starvation and brutality, would comfort others. They would give away their last piece of bread. They would speak words of hope. Now think about them. They couldn't change their situation. They couldn't make the Nazis go away. They could make the hunger stop. They couldn't do that also. But they could choose their attitude. And in choosing compassion, in choosing to give rather than take, they transformed their suffering into something meaningful. This is what Frankl called the third and highest part of meaning, path to meaning. The attitude we take towards unavoidable suffering. When we cannot change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And in that change, we find meaning. Santiago couldn't change the fact that he was captured. He couldn't change the warrior's demands. But he could change himself. He could go inward, connect with the soul of the world, and become something new. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Most of us will never have to turn to the wind, but all of us do face suffering, sickness, loss, failure, betrayal, disappointment. And in those moments, Frankl's wisdom is everything. He says, when we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That's not giving up. That's the deepest kind of strength. So the takeaway: you cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what you become through it. So now, Jasveer, over to you for your reflections from these books. Over to you, Jasveer.
Thank you, Sujata. Yes, we can always choose how we want to live our lives. And there is a very famous quote which says that when you know why you want to do something, the how doesn't matter. When you have a purpose in life, then it doesn't matter what you have to face in life. And one very strong example of this is the freedom fighter Bhagat Singh. He fought for the freedom of India when the British rule was there in India. And he was then imprisoned in the Lahore Central Jail, but he remained calm. He knew that his purpose was to teach the Britishers a lesson, for being able to also revive that feeling that we need freedom from the Britishers, and to ignite that aspiration in the youth of India. And during his last days in jail, he was very calm. He was reading books of Lenin, and he did not even show any signs of remorse or any sign of feeling low or disheartened. He was a very young man. He was just 23 years old. And the kind of courage that he faced, because his purpose was to bring freedom to India. And there was obviously a lot of suffering for him, but it did not show ever on his face. His family was disturbed because such a young, literally, he was a kid, if you could say. He had not even lived a life. And he wrote his last letter to his comrades on 22nd March 1931. He wanted to live, but he was ready for the final test. That is what was written. And he requested that instead of being hanged, he should be shot, because his feeling was that he did not want to be hanged to death. And all this, you know, all this torture by the Britishers and all this did not matter, because his message was that India needs freedom and I'm ready to sacrifice myself for the country. So finally, he was martyred on 22nd March 1931, and his comrades were also hanged. So it just shows that when the willingness is there to achieve something, what happens to you doesn't really bother you. So in a similar way, when all the Jews were being put through the torture, there were few of them who were there and supporting each other. In the same way, Bhagat Singh kept his calm. He maintained his composure. He was reading. He was keeping himself busy. And even in those last moments, his entire motive was to stay calm, and his purpose was being met. That was more important to him. So that is why he is known as Shaheed Azam, which means the greatest martyr. And this is the story that I wanted to share. So over to you, Dr. Geeta.
Thank you, Jasbir. Thank you for this amazing story of Bhagat Singh. And it is a story that I have grown up listening to and always loved. It is an heartfelt story of the martyr who is living in our hearts endlessly, like a timeless hero. So, coming to the story of Santiago, Santiago finally arrives at the place he has dreamed of for so long, the majestic pyramids of Egypt. After crossing deserts, facing fears, and discovering the language of the universe, he thinks this is it, this is where the treasure must be. With hope in his heart and trembling hands, he begins to dig into the sand. Every grain feels like a step closer, every moment filled with anticipation. But life has one more test. Out of nowhere, a group of thieves attack him. They beat him, rob him, and leave him wounded, both in body and in spirit. In pain and desperation, Santiago speaks of his dream, the treasure near the pyramids, and then something unexpected happens. One of the thieves laughs, not in disbelief, but in irony. He tells Santiago that he too once had a dream of treasure buried beneath a sycamore tree in the ruins of an old church in Spain. But he shrugs it off. He calls it foolish, says he would never cross the world for a dream. And in that moment, everything shifts for Santiago. Because the place the thief describes is not just any place, it is his place, the very church where he once slept with his sheep, the place where his journey began. And suddenly, the truth becomes clear. The treasure was never at the pyramids. The pyramids were only the path to his goal. So, Santiago returns back across the desert, back to Spain, back to the beginning, and there, beneath the sycamore tree, he digs once more. This time not with doubt, but with certainty. And finally, he finds it. A chest filled with gold, jewels, and precious artifacts. The treasure he had been searching for all along. But something within him has changed, because now he understands the real treasure was never the gold. It was the journey, the lessons, the wisdom, the self-discovery, the courage to believe in something unseen, the strength to keep going even when everything seemed lost. It was discovering who he truly is. He is the real treasure that he got. And having fulfilled his personal legend, he plans to return to the desert to reunite with Fatima. So, my question to you all viewers, the treasure was hidden in the place where Santiago's journey first began all along. Now, do you believe there is some message the author is conveying through this ending? What do you think it is? So, I invite Dr. Siddharth to share his reflections on this topic. So, over to you, Dr. Siddharth.
Wow, Dr. Geeta, that is such an amazing insight which you have shared from Alchemist. Santiago was traveling all over the world but the treasure was actually with him all the while at his place, and that is such a amazing thing to know about. We might, and I can't relate to that exactly because I can understand what I have, even in my life, I have like left my travels and all over the world. I was traveling and then coming back to home, and I found my um, real wealth at in my own place. So, and how do I relate to this story from Santiago is exactly this, that it's not the external world where we are seeking, wealth, happiness, or the kind of richness or success, but it is internal to us. It is inside us where we actually have this treasure buried, and we just need to find that treasure inside us. I think I take that as a inspiration, and my learning from this story is that we can roam around all over the world, but unless we understand ourselves better, we can find out that treasure which we have internally. We can't get happier, even though we have a lot of wealth. It is not going to help us. So that is what my learning is. Over to you, Shitapa, for your insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for sharing that inspiring story. And I will like to add that I have a similar, example from a real life individual in India who is Verghese Kurian. He went for his education, for exposure, and for different ambition to earn abroad, out of India, far away, searching for his purpose. But he was engineer. He did his further training there, and when originally he was working there, he dreamt of working into something which is more meaningful, but he didn't know what. So to find his true growth and potential, and to recognize that he had traveled far, and that experience when he took back and came back to India, he actually there he found that he was doing something in rural India, a different kind of career, and he didn't know whether he will settle there at that moment of time. It was Anand in Gujarat. At first, he was not even interested in settling there, but gradually, through his experience, he learned that he is enjoying, and he is eventually building a very big cooperative movement that led to Amul, which transformed India's dairy industry and helped millions of farmers. Today, he is doing a purposeful and a recognized individual where he found his true potential right in his roots, where everything began, India, where he was born. But to find that potential, he had to travel and explore world to gain that clarity, that knowledge, that wisdom, which helped him to understand him. And that's why this journey is so important. Just like Santiago, the alchemist, Verghese Kurian had to go on that journey to discover his purpose. And even though his greatest achievement was in India, he needed that experience away from home to understand his true potential. His treasure was always there where it began, but he had to first recognize that. That's what many people do: travel abroad, travel away from home, in the hope of career, better lifestyle, and lot of things. But when they recognize what their true potential is, it is quite possible that it has started from where it has begun. So with this, I will hand it over to Sujata for more insight from the book.
Thank you, Shritapa, for that moving story from your life. Now, coming back to the books, Santiago, he travels across deserts, faces robbers, falls in love, learns to talk to the wind, only to discover that the treasure was buried in the ruins of the church where he started. The place he left months ago. At first, this seemed like a cruel joke. All that suffering for nothing, all that journey to end back where he began. But Santiago understands something profound. The treasure was never just the gold. The real treasure was courage. Everything he became on the journey, the wisdom, the love, the connection to the soul of the world. Viktor Frankl, he also understood this. He spent years in concentration camps. He lost his wife, his parents, his brother. He endured unimaginable suffering. And after the war, he could have said, what was the point? I ended up back where I started. Alive, yes, but alone, with nothing. But he didn't say that. Instead, he wrote something very beautiful. He said that life is like a film. Each frame by itself seems meaningless. But when you put all the frames together, you get a story, a complete, meaningful story. And here's his most beautiful idea. He said that the things we've lived, the love we've given, the sufferings we've endured with courage, all of it is saved. It becomes part of forever. It cannot be taken away. He wrote, in the past, nothing is irretrievably lost, but everything is irrevocably stored and treasured. Think about that. Everything you've done, everything you've been through, every moment of love, every act of courage, it's still there in the past, safe, eternal. Santiago's gold was in the ground, but his real treasure, his love for Fatima, his conversations with the wind, his friendship with the alchemist, was in his past, and no one could steal that. So, what's the message for us? The purpose of life is not to reach the destination. The purpose is to live so fully that the journey itself becomes the treasure. Santiago had to travel the world to find what was waiting at home, and maybe that's true for all of us. Maybe we have to go through struggle, through growth, through transformation to finally realize that everything we needed was always within us, but we wouldn't know that without the journey. So here's my wish for all of you. May you all have the courage to follow your dream like Santiago. May you have the strength to find meaning in your suffering like Viktor Frankl. And may you discover at the end that the greatest treasure was the person you became along the way. Thank you for being with us. Now, I would just like to hand over the mic to Jasbir for her views, for her insights, her reflections on this. Over to you, Jasbir.
Thank you, Sujata. What a beautiful message to share that life is not a destination. It is a series of learnings, and there is so much that we learn in life, and there's so much that we gain from life. And this journey continues throughout. We are lifelong learners. And one example is of a very popular Bollywood actor by the name of Shah Rukh Khan. Everybody knows him to be the king of Bollywood. But no one knows his struggles, the kind of efforts that he had to put in to where he has come today. He is one of the highest taxpayers of India. And all this started when he was in Delhi. He studied in Delhi and he fell in love with Gauri, his current wife. And he was a very small time theater actor and he wanted to make it big in life. In spite of all the difficulties that he faced, he managed to come to Mumbai. And Mumbai was the city of dreams. And he did not have even a place to stay. And in spite of all these troubles, he managed to make a great life for himself. And not only that, a respectable life, a life where he has earned respect. There is a very famous story about his life that when he came to Mumbai, he didn't have money to eat food also. And he went to a very famous walking promenade called Marine Drive. And he stood there. And when he looked at this entire skyline, he declared that one day I will rule the city. And that's exactly what Shah Rukh Khan has done. He has worked through all the efforts from small movies to big blockbusters. Nothing has affected him. None of the criticism, when people would make fun of his acting style, all that he has taken into account and he has improvised. And he is known as the king of romance. And all these years of effort, and he has stayed very, very, very loyal to his wife and very loving. And his attitude towards people and his generosity towards people has been evident in his actions. And this entire journey of his life is beautiful because of the efforts that he has put in, and he has kept learning the lessons the life has taught him. And that's exactly how we have learned these lessons today, that life is not a destination, it's a journey, and we keep learning and keep growing. And irrespective of all the troubles and all the pains that we face in life, we learn from them and become a better person. So that's the message that I want to share today. And now I hand it over to Shritapa to conclude today's session. Thank you. Over to you, Shritapa.
Thank you, Jasbir, for that amazing, example of Sarf Khan. Yes, he has inspired so many people through his, life, through his journey, and today many people are exploring various places, various career options, and a lot of different things in life, only to find one fine day their true purpose, their true treasure, and that can be very close to them where it began. It may be somewhere within, it may be in your hometown, it may be someone very close to you, it can be a relationship, and this is where this entire journey of life teaches us, brings clarity, and gives meaning to it. With this, I would like to end today's conversation and see you again in a next episode with this. Tata, bye bye, take care.